Imagine this. You're on a vacation with your family. The air is warm, the ocean stretches endlessly, and everything feels safe. Thousands of people surround you on a floating palace of entertainment. But within hours, one of your loved ones is gone. No goodbye, no clue, just vanished. Amy Lynn Bradley was 23 years old when she stepped onto a Royal Caribbean cruise ship in March of 1998. She was smart, athletic, full of life, and had every reason to look forward to her future. But before that trip was over, Amy disappeared without a trace. To this day, investigators, her family, and the public are still asking the same question. How does someone vanish from a cruise ship packed with people in the middle of the ocean? This isn't just another missing person story. Amy's case has been called one of the most baffling disappearances of our time. Because unlike many cases, this one has everything. Eyewitness accounts, a narrow timeline, suspicious crew behavior, and even reported sightings of Amy years later. Some believe she may have been taken against her will. Others think the ship's crew knows more than they ever admitted. But let's pause here for a second. Imagine yourself in that situation. You wake up on vacation, the sun rising over turquoise waters, and you realize your daughter, your sister, your best friend is simply gone. No footprints, no video evidence, just silence. What would you do? Who would you trust? And here's where the mystery deepens. Amy was last seen around 5:30 in the morning, sitting on the balcony of her family's cabin. By 6 a.m., when her father checked again, she was gone. That 30-minute window is all investigators have. 30 minutes that have haunted her family for over 25 years. Did Amy fall overboard in an accident? Did she decide to walk away from her old life? Or was she lured into something far darker, something the cruise line didn't want exposed? Tonight we're going to dive into this chilling mystery step by step. We'll walk through the night Amy vanished, the theories that still divide investigators, and the heartbreaking search her family continues to this day. And by the end of this story, I'll ask you, what do you believe really happened? Amy Lynn Bradley wasn't just a name in a headline. She was a vibrant young woman with her whole life ahead of her. Born on May 12, 1974, in Petersburg, Virginia, Amy grew up in a tight-knit family with her parents, Ron and Iva, and her younger brother, Brad. She was 23 years old when she boarded the Royal Caribbean cruise ship Rhapsody of the Seas in March of 1998. Friends and family described Amy as athletic, outgoing, and independent. She was a strong swimmer and a trained lifeguard. Details that would later become crucial when people questioned the idea of an accidental drowning. She had recently graduated from college and was starting her adult life, figuring out her career path. But more importantly, she was close to her family. The cruise was meant to be a celebratory vacation together, a rare chance to relax before everyone returned to their busy lives. But Amy wasn't without her anxieties. She reportedly had mixed feelings about going on the cruise in the first place. Some close to her say she didn't entirely trust the idea of being isolated on a ship with strangers, surrounded by crew members and fellow passengers she didn't know. Have you ever had that gut feeling before a trip, that strange unease you can't quite shake? Amy did, and tragically, that feeling may not have been wrong. On board the Rhapsody of the Seas, Amy's personality shined. She was outgoing and social, quickly making an impression. She loved music, dancing, and meeting new people. Her brother Brad remembered how she lit up the dance floor that night with the ship's band, especially the bass player who seemed particularly interested in her. For some, it was just harmless fun, but for others, it raised unsettling questions later. Was Amy being noticed by the wrong people? Think about it. When you're on vacation, surrounded by strangers, you might let your guard down. You assume you're safe because you're in a controlled environment. But what if that environment isn't as safe as it seems? Amy's relationship with her family was close, and that connection becomes a heartbreaking thread throughout this story. On that cruise, she wasn't alone. Her mom, dad, and brother were right there with her. They had dinner together, took in the entertainment, and spent hours enjoying the tropical escape. This wasn't someone running away from her family or her responsibilities. She was fully present, enjoying the trip. Her father, Ron, would later say that Amy had everything to live for. She had just adopted a bulldog puppy named Daisy, a detail that might sound small, but for anyone who's ever owned a pet, you know how deeply that bond runs. People don't just walk away from their lives when they've built strong ties like that. As the ship sailed through the Caribbean, Amy took photos with her family, lounged by the pool, and explored the decks. Everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. In those final hours before she vanished, Amy's independent spirit and her cautious instincts collided. She was comfortable enough to dance and laugh, but she was also aware of her surroundings. Multiple witnesses remembered how Amy seemed alert, even uneasy, when interacting with certain crew members. Did she sense something was off?
Here's something worth thinking about. When we step onto a cruise ship, we often feel like we're leaving the worries and dangers of everyday life behind. But crime doesn't stay behind on land. In fact, maritime law and cruise ship security can be murky. If something happens at sea, who's responsible? The cruise line, local authorities, or no one at all? For Amy's family, these unanswered questions would become an endless source of frustration. But before we get there, it's important to remember who Amy was: a daughter, a sister, a friend. She loved animals, she loved her family, and she loved life. She wasn't perfect, none of us are, but she had dreams, goals, and plans. Amy Lynn Bradley was not a faceless passenger on a cruise. She was a real person with a story that deserves to be told. And that's what makes her disappearance all the more terrifying. Because when someone like Amy, healthy, strong, surrounded by loved ones, can vanish without a trace, it forces us to confront a chilling reality. If it happened to her, it could happen to anyone. In Part 2, we'll follow Amy's final moments before she vanished into thin air.